Shalom. As we begin tonight, let us pause together for a moment of reflection, introspection, meditation, prayer, and sacred breath. God, we call you by many names. Hear our prayer on this night. We humbly ask your blessing. Bless our state and all its people. Bless our governor and each of our elected officials and their families who help to lead our state forward. Bless all who toil in the offices of our government, secretaries and policy analysts, judges and magistrates, deputies, assistants, schedulers, drivers, security, janitors, and maintenance crew. The psalmist taught us these words, Hinei ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad, how good and pleasant it is to be together. We haven't been together for this State of the State address in nearly 2 years, and these 2 years have challenged us all, and it has challenged our state like never before. Nearly 90,000 Californians have died during this coronavirus pandemic, so let us pause now in reverence to honor their lives and pay our respects to their families. May each of their memories live as a blessing. And let us pray for the continued healing and well-being of the millions who have had COVID-19 and recovered, and the millions who still fight the effects of long-term COVID. And let us look forward to the horizon, for it is good to be in each other's company, renewing our commitments towards building a society that is fair and just and equitable. Let us give thanks to the Creator of all, who blessed our states with abundant natural resources, from our coastlines to our deserts, from the high Sierras to the Central Valley. Our golden California is a blessing to all who dwell here. Let us do more to protect the land and sea and our state, to protect the fish and the fowl and the fauna, all living creatures, for we are but stewards of this world. In the Jewish Midrash, the sages told this story. In the hour when the Holy One, blessed be, created the first human, the Eternal took them by the hand and let them pass before all the trees of the Garden of Eden. And God said, "See my works, how fine and excellent they are. Now all that I have created here I have created for you. Think upon this, and do not corrupt and desolate my world." We learn from this obligation to care for the beauty and bounty of our world, and we also learn to care for one another, for the people who are part of this beautiful abundance. We are a diverse and magical collection of people in California. Bless all people of every color, background, and ethnic heritage, every creed and faith, and those with no faith at all. Gay and lesbian, straight and transgender, non-binary, agender, gender fluid, and queer. Bless Democrat and Republican, Greens and Independents, citizens and undocumented, for all are created in your divine image. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, spread over us your tabernacle of peace. Our hearts tonight are particularly attuned, Holy One, to the unfolding refugee tragedy in the Ukraine, as now nearly 2 million people have fled unjust war. We pray for their safety and for the forces of democracy to prevail. And we know that the good people of California will open their arms, as we have done so many times before, for refugees from every part of the world. Even as there are refugees and asylum seekers on our own California borders, fleeing warlords and violence, climate change and terror in their home countries, let us remember we have so much here in California to share. And let us find a way to lead and do as the Bible teaches us, to welcome the stranger in our midst. So as we gather here, let us remember the dignity and worth of every human being. Let us not measure the dollars in their wallet, but let us look into one another's eyes and hearts, and remember to affirm each other's humanity. Too many will sleep unhoused tonight in our California. Too many will go hungry in the greatest breadbasket of the world. And we can, each of you who have the power to solve great problems, can rise to the challenge of distributing our resources more equitably. God, give strength and fortitude to each of our legislators and to our elected officials to move beyond the political rhetoric that too often divides us and instead unites us in common purpose, the way forward, the California way forward, leading our country with the effervescent hope that we can and we will bring a time of justice and fairness, equity and equality for all God's children. And let us be responsible in our efforts and hold one another accountable to the holy way of kindness, compassion, and humility. As the prophet Micah taught, what does God require of you? Only to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. So may each of us gathered here, we pray, do justice and love compassion, and walk humbly forward, knowing the divine spirit of the universe walks with you, blesses you and your families, and blesses our state of California and all who dwell here. Kenya Hiratzon, so may it be God's will. Amen. Now, please let us welcome the Speaker of the California State Assembly, Anthony Renton.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good evening. As we gather California's leaders here today, there is much to be proud of. The governor, the Senate, and the Assembly have worked hard and worked together to bring California through the darkest days of COVID. We have budgeted the state's financial resources to support those who have faced the worst burdens of this pandemic, whether that is in health, in housing, or in employment. We have guided California with compassion and with fiscal caution, and our people are better for it. We can be especially proud that we have done this as a team. Our biggest challenges, however, are still ahead. It's interesting to note that we are meeting in the Natural Resources Building this year because the overwhelming challenge we face is climate change. We have to continue our work to stop that change, but we also have to accelerate our efforts to adapt to the changes that are already happening in our state. While we do that, we also need to develop ideas to reduce our state's staggering inequities. Knowing the challenges is the first key toward giving us hope that we can meet those challenges. The second key is our team, the governor, the Senate, and the Assembly. We will tackle this together, and I have confidence in my partners in this effort. Now it is my pleasure to introduce one of those partners and my good friend, the President Pro Tem of the California Senate, the Honorable Tony Atkins.
Thank you, Speaker Rendon, for that introduction, and thank you for your incredible partnership. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us tonight as Governor Newsom addresses our state. We are, yet again, gathering during historic times. A brutal bully has thrown peace and diplomacy to the wind and invaded a sovereign nation, causing unprovoked chaos and violence. Tonight, we stand in solidarity with a free Ukraine. We have lived through another year of ups and downs as COVID has evolved, thankfully becoming less severe and more manageable in recent weeks. Hopefully, it will continue on this path. But no matter what the road ahead holds, California will always follow the science and be ready to respond to what is thrown our way. As part of that readiness, Governor Newsom, Speaker Rendon, and I, along with our Senate and Assembly colleagues in the legislature, took early action this year to extend paid sick leave to workers across our state, a necessary step to support working families and keep our businesses, hospitals, and schools functioning. While we watch state legislatures and courts across the nation roll back the progress we've made on reproductive rights, California is strengthening and expanding access to health and abortion care. As state officials in Texas and Florida attack LGBTQ families and transgender children, California affirms people's authentic identities, teaches students about LGBTQ history, and says gay loud and proud. We are all tired of living through the historic events that have been thrust upon us, one after another, but we cannot let that exhaustion control us. We have the power to make this historic time work for us, to make an unprecedented commitment to lifting up one another and preserving our planet, to follow the unwavering pursuit of equity, and to enthusiastically protect democracy. And now it is my pleasure to introduce someone who's made history as the first woman in her position and who, in holding that honor, realized that our laws assumed all constitutional officers to be men. With her leadership, that is being corrected. Welcome, President of the California State Senate, Lieutenant Governor Kounalakis.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem and Mr. Speaker. It is my great honor to offer a few introductory remarks before Governor Newsom delivers his fourth State of the State address. 3 years ago, soon before we both took office, the governor asked me to serve as his representative for international affairs and trade development. As a former U.S. ambassador, I am grateful to the governor and very honored that he trusts me to represent him in this way. In just the last few weeks, I hosted Governor Avila of Baja California, along with the U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, at the site of the Otay Mesa II border crossing, where I strongly urged them to work together to begin construction on the Mexico side. A few months before that, I joined many of you in Glasgow, representing California at the UN Climate Summit. And last September, I had the honor of welcoming to our state the President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. Back in 1993, just 2 years after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the United States established a state partnership program between the newly independent Ukrainian Armed Forces and the California National Guard. Since then, thousands of soldiers and airmen have gone back and forth between our state and Ukraine. They have trained together, conducted joint exercises and exchanges, and built long-lasting bonds of friendship. I welcomed President Zelensky at Moffett Field, along with the commander of the California National Guard, Major General David Baldwin. General Baldwin is here tonight. And General, thank you for your service. As President Zelensky, Major Baldwin and I made our way down the tarmac viewing equipment, vehicles, and aircraft on display, several California Guardsmen of Ukrainian descent came forward and posed with him for selfies. And at one point, one of our fighter pilots stepped forward. He showed the president a special badge on his flight suit, which he had earned during a joint training mission in Ukraine. The pilot, nicknamed Tigger, took the badge off his suit and presented it to the president. Zelensky was moved by the significance of the gesture. He asked Tigger if he was sure he wanted to part with it. He then took it, tapped it to his heart, and told him he would keep it with him always. 2 weeks ago, when the incursion began, that same Cal Air Guard pilot became one of the first members of the U.S. military sent to Europe as a NATO advisor. For 29 years, the California National Guard has played a major role in preparing Ukrainian troops for the conflict they find themselves in today. I join the many guardsmen and women who I know are sending support and prayers to their heroic Ukrainian friends today. Governor, thank you for everything you are doing to support all aspects of the California-Ukrainian partnership and friendship. And thank you for allowing me to play a part in assisting your administration in this work. And now, members of the California State Legislature and my fellow Californians, it is my honor to introduce the governor of the great state of California, Governor Gavin Newsom.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Well, Madam Lieutenant Governor, it's nice to be able to say this on International Women's Day. It's great to say thank you, Madam Lieutenant Governor, for that introduction. Speaker Rendon, Pro Tem Atkins, thank you, as always, for being here, and to members of the legislature, other state officials, thank you as well for joining us this evening, and of course to my remarkable wife, Jennifer, the first partner of the state of California. Thank you for not only being the heart of our family, but thank you for everything you do for the people of California. It goes without saying, given the state of our world, I don't imagine there are many people outside of these walls waiting on the words that will be said here tonight. But it's important, as the rabbi said, for us to come together nonetheless, not just to mark how far we've come in the fight against COVID, but also to reaffirm our commitment to democratic institutions. As the people of Ukraine continue to come under assault, 2 million, by the way, 2 million people already displaced from their homes, we take strength from their contagious courage as well as their willingness to fight for their freedom. So tonight is a moment. It's a moment to reflect, not just on what's happening overseas, but it's a moment to reflect on what it means to live in a society where elected leaders still settle our disagreements, by and large, with civility and compromise, and how we derive strength from a government that reflects the people we represent. Just think about it. Our speaker, son of working class parents and grandson of Mexican immigrants, he worked his way through the California public education system, earning a PhD from UC Riverside, now committed to ensuring every child has access to early learning. Our pro tem, born in poverty in Virginia. She came to California and became a champion for housing and equal rights for all, the first openly gay woman to lead both the Assembly and the state Senate. Our Chief Justice, public school graduate, descendant of migrant farm workers, speaking out consistently against income inequality and tackling the cost of justice for people in poverty. And take our constitutional officers here tonight. Think about this. They include the daughter of an Arkansas sharecropper, an immigrant from the Philippines, the daughter of parents born in China and Greece, one raised by a teacher from Panama, and the proud son of undocumented Mexican immigrants. Thank you all for your remarkable service to our state. California does democracy like nowhere else in the world. No other place offers opportunity to so many from so many different backgrounds. But we can't take democracy for granted. Authoritarian and illiberal impulses aren't just rising overseas. They've been echoing here at home for some time. We might not have a strongman quite literally waging war in our country. We are plagued by the agents of a national anger machine, fueling division, weaponizing grievance, powerful forces and loud voices stoking fear and seeking to divide us, weakening the institutions of our democracy, counting on complacency to erode voting rights, scapegoating vulnerable minorities, conjuring conspiracies, and promoting otherness, actively exploiting the anger of the anxious. Anger, by the way, that finds a home when people feel understandably disconnected from each other and our collective future, when that future doesn't look as bright as the past, making them more susceptible to the siren calls of those trying to tear us apart. Foundationally, this is a threat we must all face together and prove there's a better way, a California way forward. The California way. The California way means rejecting old binaries and finding new solutions to big problems. Take, for example, the speaker was talking about climate policy. California has no peers. For years, we've set the rules and others have followed. But over time, we've learned we can't solve big problems like climate change situationally with short-term thinking. Look, no one's naive about the moment we're living in, with high gas prices and the geopolitical uncertainty that's fueling them. In January, we proposed a pause to the gas tax increase. Now, it's clear we have to go farther. And that's why, working with legislative leadership, I'll be submitting a proposal to put money back in the pockets of Californians to address rising gas prices. But I want to make this clear. At a time when we've been heating and burning up, one thing we cannot do is repeat the mistakes of the past by embracing polluters, drilling even more oil, which only leads to even more extreme weather, more extreme drought, and more wildfire. What more evidence? What more evidence do you need than our own state? Just think about this. In the past few years, we've seen whole communities nearly wiped off the map. Greenville, Paradise, Grizzly Flats. How many more are we willing to sacrifice? We need to be fighting polluters, not bolstering them. And in the process of doing so, freeing us once and for all from the grasp of petrodictators. But this conversation can't just be about supply, it can't just be about oil supply. Daily life still demands too much fossil fuel. That too has to change, underscoring the importance of accelerating California's leadership in clean technology. This is not just a national security and environmental justice imperative. Clean energy is this generation's greatest economic opportunity. A perfect example, by the way. A perfect example of that is our dominance in electric vehicle sales and manufacturing. It was, by the way, California policies that created this market. Now we have an opportunity to extend this leadership to secure critical component of the supply chain for batteries by tapping one of the world's largest lithium reserves right here in California, in Imperial Valley. And you consider this, our nation-leading climate investments, some $38 billion, will ensure that other innovations will surely follow, not by recreating the 20th century, by extracting more oil, but by extracting new ideas, drilling for new talent, by running our economy on a carbon-free engine. That's the California way. Now, when it comes to the economy, California's unmatched. We dominate. We dominate in research, innovation, entrepreneurialism, venture capital, and remain the world's 5th largest economy. Our GDP growth has consistently outpaced not only the rest of the nation, but most other large Western democracies. Think about this. In December alone, 25% of America's jobs were created right here in California, 1 million new jobs just in the last 12 months. More new business starts during the worst of the pandemic than Texas and Florida combined. But you know what makes us so different than those states, besides the freedom of a woman's right to choose? What makes us different is that as our businesses grow, we don't leave workers behind. Just consider what we did last year for middle class here in our state. We sent $12 billion back, the largest state tax rebate in American history. But we didn't stop there. We didn't stop there. We raised the minimum wage. We increased paid sick leave. We provided more paid family leave. We expanded childcare to help working parents. And this year, with your support, we will do something no other state in America has done: provide health for all, regardless of immigration status. That's the California way. And speaking of not leaving people behind, no state took bolder steps to protect public health and human life over the last 2 years. Our lockdowns, distressing as they were, saved lives. Our mask mandates saved lives. Your choices saved lives. California experienced far lower COVID death rates than any other large state. Fewer than Texas, Ohio, fewer than Florida, 35% fewer to be exact. But mindful, even with 3/4 of Californians being fully vaccinated, we're mindful that we cannot let our guard down. And that's why just last month we put out our Smarter Plan, the nation's first blueprint to stay ahead of future variants and seasonal surges. And I just want to thank you. I want to take a moment to thank all of you, to thank members of this legislature for all you did over the past 2 years to help keep us safe. But there's another crisis, all too familiar, referenced just a moment ago, and that's the crisis of homelessness, which we know has worsened over the last decade, not only here in California, but all across our nation. You know, it was just a few years ago, California lacked any comprehensive strategy, no accountability, and no meaningful state resources to solve the problem. But that's all changed. In just the past 3 years, we not only have a comprehensive plan, we're also requiring new accountability and providing unprecedented investments for cities and counties on the front lines. And while we've moved a record 58,000 people off the streets, 58,000 off the streets since the beginning of the pandemic, we all recognize we have more work to do, particularly to address what's happening on our sidewalks, reaching people who need the most help, those with schizophrenia spectrum and psychosis disorders, many self-medicating with drug or alcohol addictions. And that's precisely what our encampment resolution grants and our new care court seek to address. Getting people off the streets, out of tents and into housing and treatment is essential, clearly essential to making our streets safe for everyone. But public safety certainly isn't just about homelessness. Bobby Kennedy, just 6 weeks before he was killed by assassin's bullet, reminded us that the health of a society depends on the ability of people to walk their own streets in safety and not to be frightened into isolation. A nation, he said, which surrenders to crime, whether by indifference or heavy-handed repression, is a society which has resigned itself to failure. Our approach is to be neither indifferent to the realities of the present day, nor revert to the heavy-handed policies that have marked the failures of the past. We're funding local law enforcement and prosecutors to investigate and solve more crimes. We're bolstering the Attorney General's office, prosecuting organized theft rings, and getting illegal guns off our streets. But we're also investing hundreds of millions in new programs to tackle the root causes of crime, doubling down on proven violence prevention programs. That is the California way. Of course, to tackle any root cause, we need to talk about education. And I'm not talking about that version of education reform being promoted in some states, where they're banning, quite literally, you can't make this up, where they're banning books, where you can sue your history teacher for teaching history, and where you can't even say the word gay. I'm talking about real transformation of our public education system, like we're doing right here in the state of California, by creating choices, real choices for parents, and unprecedented support for their kids, a whole new grade, transitional kindergarten for all. Nine hours of enrichment a day with true universal before and after school programs. Expanded summer school, universal nutritious meals, millions of new child savings account, and free community college. That's the California way. Look, I think all of us, at least here, can agree to this, that people have always looked to California for inspiration. Now, in the midst of so much turmoil, with the stacking of stresses and dramatic social and economic change, California is doing what we've done for generations, lighting out the territory ahead of the rest, expanding the horizon of what's possible. We know that government cannot be the entire solution, but we also know that government has always been part of the solution by creating a platform for people and the private sector to thrive. And as Freeman said, we have a formula for success, setting rules for risk-taking, not recklessness, infrastructure, research and development, investing in our conveyor belt for talent, the finest system of higher education anywhere in the world, our CSUs, UCs, and community colleges. And ensuring society provides a hand up when people need help, maintaining our pro-immigrant policies and welcoming refugees from around the world. Those are all California values, embracing diversity, but also seeking common ground, pursuing greater connectedness, not exploiting division with performative politics and memes of the moment, but by unifying towards common purpose, inviting more people with diverse perspectives from different backgrounds to strive, to seek, to find, to not yield, all into the fight for a better California. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you for the privilege of your time tonight.